Hi, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I've got Aaron Civitarese on the call. What Aaron's done is quite exceptional. He meets up between influencers and those people who are interested in what the influencers have to offer. And so he is a sort of a matchmaker, and he's created a successful company doing that. I think you're going to be absolutely fascinated by what you are about to see. Speak soon. Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to this podcast. I'm Dan Ashendorf, and today I've got someone really special for you. We've met on Facebook, and I was really fascinated by some of the things he does. His name is Aaron. He's living in Italy at the moment. He's got an amazing life story. But rather than me sort of telling you all about him, without further ado, I'll pass you over to Aaron. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
So how's it going, Aaron? It's really good to finally catch up. I know we've been sort of toing and froing on Facebook, but I know you've got a fascinating life story. You've been traveling around the southeast of Asia, and now you're doing podcasting and work with influencers and a whole bunch of really cool stuff. So tell me a bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've been connecting on Facebook for a while now, so it's nice to connect here on the podcast. We all have our backstories. Everyone has a story to tell, and I'm no different, right? I grew up in Canada, working class family. My dad was a fireman. My mom was a secretary for the city. I grew up in like the typical Canadian household. We had a great upbringing, went to school, went to college. I was a professional athlete, pro alpine ski racer. So I was traveling the world from about 16 to 23, chasing the Olympics. Never quite got there. So I retired and I went to college to get a scholarship, which I was happy to take in the States. Did my business degree there, and I moved into the corporate world relatively quickly. I went into banking, didn't really enjoy it. I went into insurance, didn't enjoy that. So I took a step back and I asked myself, well, what do I really like? And I realized that I like traveling because I traveled a lot for skiing, right? So I figured, well, I could go to hospitality school and learn how to run hotels, tourism. So I did that. I went to Switzerland and I got myself a master's degree in a hotel school. And I met my lovely wife there, which was the best thing that ever happened. So that was awesome. And we moved to Asia and we worked in the corporate hotel world for a while. Again, did not enjoy it. The entrepreneur mind, you know how it is, right? The entrepreneurial mind just won't allow me to conform. I learned a lot. I met a lot of nice people in the corporate space there, but it just wasn't for us. So we both took a step back from that. We consulted for a while, building hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, music festivals, everything in between, anything tourism related. We had our fingers in it in Southeast Asia. And after some time, I wanted more freedom. I was tired of consulting and I was going places to work, and I wanted to just be free. So I decided I wanted to go online, and I did. And that was about a year ago. I opened my computer. Like a lot of people, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I typed in there how to make money on the internet, literally. And, a million things popped up. As you can imagine, I had a very rough 6 months following that, right? I went into scams. I got taken into all sorts of things, but it was a learning experience. I took it with a grain of salt. And I ended up surrounding myself with some mentors, that brought me along the journey, taught me a lot of amazing things, showed me what the industry is really about. And spoiler alert, it's about relationships and people, right? So when I realized that, I was like, oh, got it. Relationships and people. I just need to meet cool people and network with them and just add value to the marketplace and take value from them and just exchange energy. And I've just been doing that ever since now. And so we left Asia, and now we're working full-time online, and we're here in Rome. This is our new little apartment. We're in here just now, my little new office. I'm very happy with it. And it's turning out exactly as it should. So I'm very happy about it. Yeah.
That is so true, what you say about the relationships. I mean, it really is kind of like the X factor, isn't it? Once you network, once you sort of find good people to synergize with. I mean, that's how I started out as well. I was doing a lot of work with e-commerce, and basically I released a book and I got someone to publish it with me. We sold 3,000 copies. This was about 5 years ago, and then the rest is just history. So once you know how to kind of synergize, once you have that sort of good personality to be getting on with people, that's just so important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what is it you do now? Because you were saying something really interesting about working with influencers to kind of take it on to the next level. I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, it is interesting actually. It's phenomenal. When I got into the internet space, I started understanding, affiliate marketing. I went into the MLM space. I went into the cryptocurrency space. I was all over the place. But one thing was constant, and that was everything ended up either on the phone or in a Zoom meeting or some sort of a chat where you're basically talking to somebody about closing a deal and becoming business partners. It's no different than normal business. It is business. It's just on the internet, right? So I kind of was like, it's just about communicating. At the end of the day, you're closing deals with each other. So I thought, okay, well, that's the skill that I want to get good at. That's what I want to get good at, because I enjoy the marketing side of things, but it doesn't fire me up. Like thinking of a marketing campaign or thinking of hooks and stuff and stories, it doesn't fire me up as much as communicating with somebody in a fashion that helps them get to where they want to go, helps them build that bridge from the pain that they're in to the pleasure they want to get to. And if I know there's something I have, or I know someone who has the bridge for them, I want to be able to articulate it so that they can get there on their own, not being pushed and sold, but they can actually get there on their own and be successful when they arrive, because they arrived there on their own. So it's the art of closing. And I realized, that's a skill. That's something that can be learned, right? So I went out, and like I do with all things, I look for mentorship, right? In any area of life. I've done it in health. I've done it in skiing and stuff. I did it in school. I did it in corporate. I had corporate mentors that were helping me climb that ladder, even though I hated it. And I had it in consulting. I had it in tourism, and now I have it online, right? So I'm searching for mentors. And one of the mentors I chose for closing was Dan Locke. Absolutely amazing. I have his book right there, FU Money. I have an award right there that I got on stage this year at his event. And absolutely phenomenal. I love the way he articulates how to close. And he basically opened my eyes to being able to have this high income skill that you can leverage for yourself, and you can go to the marketplace and provide value with it.
Yeah.
And you can go out and you can make partnerships, joint ventures, or you can just simply work as an independent contractor. And so you can go out to the marketplace and do this. And when it all kind of hit me like an avalanche that this is an option, I was like, that's amazing. I want to explore that. So I did. And like everything in life that I get into, I go all in, right? So I did. I went all in. I learned as much as I could. I got into his inner circle. I went to his event, met him, got on his YouTube channel, got on the podcast as testimonials, and looking forward to the next event. Now I'm one of the accountability group coaches in his inner circle. So when new closers come in, I host them on a weekly meeting and, help them through the process. And it's absolutely amazing because, things happen fast when you're all in, right? So 4 or 5 months ago, I just heard the word closer. And I was like, that's an interesting word. And then cut to 2 months later, I was already getting an award and on stage, and cut to now I'm helping other closers. And I have multiple influencers and businesses that I work with on a pure commission basis, right? And it's absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I love being that part of the puzzle in the business. It's an amazing part to be, because you close the sale, right?
Yeah, because he's Canadian as well, right? He's from
he's in Vancouver.
Yeah. No, he's quite a remarkable sort of guy. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of people that are out there talking about sales, right? Obviously, you got the Sandler system, you got Grant Cardone, right? You got Wolf of Wall Street guys, you got all these different guys with their different methods, and they're all phenomenal. I listen to all of it. I'm a student of the game for all of it. But Dan Locke was the one who basically introduced it to me, the fundamentals, and his was the inner circle I chose to join. Now, that's not to say I won't join others. I'll tell you right now, I will join others. Jordan Belfort's, I'm right on the edge of his inner circle. I'm looking at it and I'm peering through and seeing what's going on and meeting some of his leaders and stuff, because I just find it fascinating. I find it fascinating and I love learning.
I guess on the flip side, you need to be really focused on one thing, right? Because if you start to kind of dilute yourself, then you're going to be all in, but you're going to be all in with a whole bunch of different camps. So can you really be as effective if you're kind of doing different styles, do you think, or is it kind of a more of a time management issue?
That's a good question. I think the more you learn about the art of closing from multiple people, the better, I think. That could be argued. I could have that debate with somebody. I'm not saying I'm right. But since I'm so new to it, right, I feel like I want to diversify my knowledge early because they do have different techniques. They totally have different techniques, but the theory is the same. That's what's interesting about it. The macro is the same. It's the same. It's the same macro. It's the finer details and the verbiage that they use and how they move the prospect along the wire is the same, but they do it in slightly different ways. So I feel like if I can understand the macro on a very high level from all of their perspectives and then go into the different ways that they do it and sort of pick the pieces that I like and make it my own. That's sort of my ultimate goal. Because that's kind of what I do now. Like I follow Dan Locke's strategy, of course. His is very theoretical. He's not into scripts at all. He's not into, he's really into understanding the theory of the close and going with like your intuition as you go through the theory. It's kind of hard to explain versus someone like Grant Cardone, who is very structured on just knock on more doors, ask more questions, get the sale, jam it down their throat, real estate style, right? Jordan Belfort, he has the straight line, which is awesome. I love the straight line. So he just has, he basically has a line that you walk down, and as the prospect's taking you here, your job is to pull them back on the straight line with a series of questions and get them to the end. So they have all these different techniques, and I feel like we put them all together. It's like if you're an MMA fighter and you know jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and stuff, you put it all together, you're an MMA guy. I feel the same with closing. I want to know all the different techniques and then make my own sort of flavor.
Yeah, that's really interesting because before I was doing this full time, I was actually a sales director for many years. So I'm kind of all familiar with all the.
There you go.
So I guess you've got two clients basically. You've got on the one hand, you have the people with the products, and on the other hand, you got the prospects, right? So you need to be selling to both in effect, and then taking a cut from both. Is that the way it works, right? Okay.
Yeah. You typically have to close your joint venture to start. That's the first close, right? You go out to the marketplace, you put yourself out there, and you start attracting people, whether it's an influencer, a business, a company, anybody who's selling anything that they have too many leads, or if they want to give the task to specialists, which is a smart thing to do, right? If that's why my podcast is about scale, right? Because I'm about sticking to your thing that you're good at and letting other people do the other pieces. So if you're a marketing guy and you love marketing, bring someone like me into close. Don't worry about like you said, don't spin too many plates, right? So the angle there is to go to the marketplace and say, if I could increase your buy rate by 10%, on a purely commission basis, would it be worth having a conversation?
It's actually a really common thing in the marketing industry with regards to the big ticket items. So coaching, $1,000 and above. There is a few guys that I know who are specialists. In fact, I've done it myself. So I've got a coaching program, and what I do is I just don't have the time to close people on the call. So we have a webinar, and then say you got 100 people show up. Well, no, so you have 100 people register, but then about 20 show up. So these 20 people need to be followed up, and the 80 people who didn't show up need to be followed up, ideally over the phone, but I just don't have the time for it. So I know exactly what you mean. So if I could outsource that to someone like yourself, and then maybe we could do some sort of a profit share thereafter, then it would be a win-win then, wouldn't it? So that's the way it works.
That's 100% how it works. Yes,
right,
yes.
Got it.
Yeah. And also to take it a step further, we can come in, I'm obviously you're aware of this, but for your listeners, you can come in as teams, right? You can have a setter and a closer. right? So you have the no-show or the people on the webinar who didn't buy, and maybe they dropped off after 75% of the webinar, because you can see that metric, right? Maybe they dropped off after the 30%. They're not that hot at all. They just kind of showed up and left. So then you can get your setter, who might be a closer who's not quite there yet. Maybe they're fresh and new, or maybe they just enjoy first contact calls. I really like first contact. People hate it. I love it. I'll do it all day long. Yes. So you can do first contact with the setter. He can get them on the phone, pique some interest, see if there's actually something there. If there is, book them in the calendar for the closer later. So it's a two-man operation. So that's very common. And that's one of the things that I help coach the accountability group with. So one thing that we do is I do FCC live in front of them. I'll blast out 50 calls, and your pickup rate is like, out of 50, I'll probably get maybe 5 that pick up, right? Out of those 5, I'll get 4 appointments. And the guys are like, you're going to sit there for an hour and a half or 2 hours to get 4 appointments? I'm like, yeah, that's a $6,000 product. Think about that. Yeah, that's a $30,000 day right there for the influencer. You're taking 20% or whatever, 15% of that. It's just math. So if you're willing to sit there, do the work, and you enjoy the work, which I do because I like communicating, and I look at it like a game. It's a game. It's just a game for me. So I enjoy it. And yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
So do you teach people how to do that? I mean, if people wanted to get into that business, could they come to you, and you have a coaching program, sort of how to get started in the business?
I don't have a coaching program. I will. I'm sure I will. I don't yet. What I do, because people do come to me regularly and ask, especially when they see me with Dan Locke and stuff. And I tell them the same thing that I did. I say, come with me and I'll introduce you to my mentor. That's what I say. And then I can bring them right to the top of the company very quickly because I'm on the inside. So that's what I do. I bring them into Dan Locke's program, and I show them how I went through the process. I help them. I bring them into my group. I introduce them to my other fellow closers. And of course, we have teams and things inside there, but it's all under the Dan Locke HTC umbrella. That's where I operate.
Nice. So if you had one tip for good salesmanship, what would it be?
Oh boy. Only one?
Well,
yeah. The biggest lesson that I learned from one of my first mentors, Darren Little, he explained to me the importance of polarity in sales. And I did not understand what he meant. I'll be honest. I was like, what do you mean? I don't get it. And it was crazy because I could sell in insurance in that world. I was a salesman there, but it was a different sell. Different. It was a force, very hard. And he explained to me polarity and, how to shift the polarity and swap it over and move the prospect by asking questions, right? And having them answer their own questions. So my one tip, I guess, for sales would be speak less. And when you open your mouth, make it a question.
That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And that's hard. It's not easy to do that, right? Like I really struggled. You can tell I'm a talker, right? I struggle with that. I still do. When I get on the phone with somebody who I resonate with and we're having like a really good, like how you and I just kind of banter back and forth, I just start going, and I catch myself like, whoa, wait a minute. You're not at the baseball field talking to your buddy. Start asking him questions again. I get pulled off the path, as Jordan Belfort would say, get back on the straight line. So yeah, talk less and just ask questions. And if you don't know what to say, don't say anything at all. Silence is your greatest weapon.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think we can probably do something with regards to this thing you were saying about, closing and so on.
Yeah, so, I'm sure. I love it. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Aaron. Take care.
Great. Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.